Let's talk about the self-doubt habit loop and the 4 traps of self-doubt, including which one you tend to get stuck on the most in this episode. Welcome to the Good Enough Mompreneur podcast, where we celebrate moms creating businesses on their own terms. I'm your host, Angela Mashuli, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode, where I'm going to talk about the self-doubt habit loop and the 4 traps of self-doubt and help you kind of identify which ones or ones might be affecting you, and talk a little bit about my new course that's starting this month, Confidence Alchemy. So let's just dive in. I know that I am a business coach to moms, but a huge part of my mompreneurial journey has been understanding my own self-doubt and trying to wrap my head around why such amazing women and moms particularly suffer from self-doubt. So that led me on a journey to hire coaches and take courses and even become a certified confidence coach myself. And I did that in 2023, and here I am bringing to you parts of all that I've learned over the last decade as an entrepreneur, and from thousands of dollars on coaches and courses and, dozens of interviews on this podcast. So let's dive in. And let me just begin by saying we all suffer from self-doubt. It is totally normal, but it is a place. It's not somewhere you have to stay. There are definitely ways to move forward. And one of the ways to move forward is to realize, this is totally normal, and not to beat yourself up about it. Easier said than done. I know that for sure. But learning about the ways in which you get stuck in your own mental drama can be so helpful. So let's talk about it. So why do we have self-doubt? Which is the opposite of confidence. Why does the brain hesitate and resist? And the number one reason is that our brains are wired to keep us safe and alive. And any uncertainty, whether it be a potential saber-toothed tiger chasing us or standing on a stage and making a speech, is interpreted as the same level of threat to our brain. So our brain wants to protect us from taking on any action that it deems as risky. So that includes risk of failure, discomfort, embarrassment, and uncertainty, like I mentioned. So, we know that it's totally normal to have self-doubt. So, do you get caught in a self-doubt loop? What is a self-doubt loop? So, a self-doubt loop is what really stops us from taking action when we need to, like in our businesses or in our lives, to live more on our terms. So what happens is you overthink a goal or an accomplishment that you want to make. You doubt your ability to take that action, and because you didn't take that action, you weren't successful, and you develop this self-doubt. So it's just this constant loop. But here's the really great news, is that this is actually just a habit. It's not something you're born with or not born with. We all have self-doubt. It's just there are two types of people, those who stay in self-doubt and those who find a way to emerge from it. And one of the ways that we can learn how to overcome our self-doubt is to learn about the 4 main traps of self-doubt. So let's talk about those. The first type of self-doubt trap is hesitation. Raise your hand in your car or on your walk or wherever you are if you've ever hesitated. And what does this look like? Waiting, overthinking, perfectionism, and a characteristic that you hesitate is you constantly are busy. You create little tasks to kind of fill the space from doing what you know in the back of your mind you should be doing. And I remember a classic example of this for me was like when I was in college, I would do like chores around the house and just tell myself like I have to have everything in my environment just right before I can move forward on this project that I need to do. And that can look for moms like loading the dishwasher or doing a load of laundry or doing some other little task that really is not the task at hand. So some of the behaviors that you might do is you might tell yourself a story about what could go wrong. You cannot put something out there until it's perfect. Making a plan, but then not acting on it. Or, like I said, staying busy with avoidance mechanisms to avoid dealing with something or somebody. Does that sound familiar? Certainly does to me. And as I go through these, really, I don't think it's just one of the self-doubt traps that affects most of us. I think we all have a combination of all of these traps. So what's the second one? Hiding. Oh my goodness. I think for online business owners, you're probably going to really identify with this. So you're triggered by fear of others and overwhelm. So what does this look like? It looks like avoiding, procrastinating, shrinking back, staying behind the scenes, and characteristic is that you're just kind of quiet. And I think for me, I'm naturally an introvert, and I can definitely fall into the self-doubt trap, and sometimes putting myself out there just feels exhausting. But what are some of the behaviors you might do if hiding is affecting you? Focusing on big dreams leading to overwhelm, an excuse not to act, and feeling paralyzed. That sounds really familiar, especially before I got a virtual assistant. Not standing up for yourself or asking for what you want. Actively protecting yourself and holding yourself back. Being able to identify a dream and feel passionate about it, but not having an actionable plan. And then shrinking back from opportunity and playing it small. Afraid of being judged, looking like a fool, or disappointing or upsetting others. Man, as somebody who is in trauma therapy and who has dealt with a lot of trauma in my life, I tell you, those are very similar symptoms to anybody who's been through a lot of trauma in their life is probably going to feel some of those, and they call it like a freeze reaction. And trauma can help you feel very small. So if that sounds familiar to you, I hear you, I see you, I feel this a lot. And there's so much possibility to work through that. So self-doubt trap number 3 is being hypercritical, or anybody out there listening who is hypercritical of themselves, I am totally sure that there are. So if you're hypercritical, you are triggered by fear of being hurt, disappointed, or failing. So this looks like arguing against yourself and being self-critical and complaining. And a major characteristic of being hypercritical is that you're negative. So you look for and focus on flaws. You'll focus on why you can't do something. You will fixate on what can go wrong. You'll lawyer things to death. You'll argue your way out of them or argue about them. You know what you need to do, but always have excuses why it won't work. And believe you can't. It's just not possible. Things don't feel possible to you. So the last self-doubt trap is helplessness. So if you're finding yourself in that helplessness trap, you're triggered by insecurity or low self-worth. Helplessness is a fear of success. And I love that this came up because so few people talk about the fear of success. You know, we start a business to be successful, but it's honestly probably one of the biggest fears that you will face as an entrepreneur in dealing with what that feels and looks like. So if you're someone who is falling in this helplessness trap, it's going to look like playing the victim. It's going to look like blaming, lack of self-trust, dependency, defeatist attitude, and it's really a behavior or habit that's characterized by pity. So you believe that nothing ever goes your way, that you blame others or the outside world for all the outcomes in your life. So you have a real extreme external locus of control. And, you know, if anybody has dealt with therapy or psychology, you know that we really want to focus on our internal locus of control and what we can control. So you have lots of excuses. You've learned the kind of poor me gets you sympathy and attention from others, overly overdependent on others, feeling like the world owes you something, false sense of incompetence or that you can't handle your problems. And it's really like this lack of self-trust. So, and you really have a hard time being vulnerable. So those are the 4 self-doubt traps. And let me just go over them really quickly for you again. So it's hesitation, which is really characterized by being busy. Hiding, which is characterized by being quiet. Hypercritical, which is more of a negative characteristic. And helplessness, which is kind of, characterized by pity or being the victim. I mean, I know there's a lot of tough love that's kind of involved in your introspection and self development. But it's really important to think about, why we do what we do when we're wanting to overcome something like anything actually, but especially self-doubt and trying to build our confidence. So I just want to leave you with the message that if you're struggling with self-doubt on a level that you really feel that you just are hitting a wall and living the life that you want to live, I want to invite you to enroll in my free mini course, 5 Keys to Confidence. And there are 5 R's in that course that you go over to learn about what it is and how to cultivate confidence. But particularly, there's an entire section of my new course, Confidence Alchemy, that comes out soon, where I review these 4 traps of self-doubt, and we go over on how to analyze the self-doubt and help to learn how to overcome them in a sustainable way. And that's something that's really important to me. Confidence is a lifelong journey and endeavor. And I really want to be that person who provides a long-term way to cultivate self-confidence, because I see a lot of ways that we can put short-term band-aids on what is really at the root of our lack of self-confidence, especially as moms and women. So I'd love to hear if there's a combination or one of these self-doubt traps that you really identify. And so with my coaching clients or in the course, we dive deep into these self-doubt traps and how to work on overcoming them. So I will leave links in the show notes to my new free mini course and how you can sign up for either the course or the coaching package that is going to be available. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I look forward to bringing you 2 episodes per month where I'm just talking to you like I am now. And it feels awesome. I mean, we're season 3. It's been an incredible journey. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. And every Monday, we have a new episode with an interview with amazing women and amazing thought leaders and speakers that you're going to learn so much from. So be sure to leave a comment. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a review. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share this episode with anybody that you think might find it helpful. I saw a recent study where 65% of American women are looking to up-level their life and their confidence in one area or another. So that's a pretty alarming statistic. So if that's you, or you know somebody who could use a boost in confidence, share this episode. I would appreciate it so much. Thank you for joining me on the Good Enough Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Angela Mashuli, and I can't wait to talk to you on the next episode.